There's actually a lot you can do to regenerate your brain. What is missing most in our system of medicine right now is clarity. There's a lot of guessing. It's almost as if a spell is being cast on people. This is what's going to happen to you with this diagnosis. It's tragic. And I knew the system was broke, but to then go through it with that velocity. So I knew, okay, we need to do something here.
Hello, and welcome to the Liberty Spenders podcast. We are Kurt and Kristen Ludhart, your hosts and co-founders of the Prosper Group, an agency that's helped raise over $500 million and help elect over 100 members of Congress, 15 governors, 15 U.S. senators, and 1 president. So business owners, what if you could exponentially grow your business by tapping into a lucrative, engaged audience that we call Liberty Spenders? There are 76.5 million of these people. They spend $5 trillion a year, and they're motivated to buy from businesses and brands that share their values. If you want to learn more, you can get access to our new best-selling book at libertyspenders.com/free.
We're excited to have Dr. Greg Eckel today. He's the founder of Energy for Life Centers and a naturopathic physician with over 23 years in integrative medicine. Don't be deceived by his young looks there. He's a bioenergetics pioneer. He developed the Eckel protocol for brain regeneration inspired by personal loss. He's the author of Shake It Off, host of the Brain Regen podcast, and leader in holistic healing. Dr. Eckel is redefining wellness from his Park City center. Welcome. We're happy to have you.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I joked right before we aired that I'm gonna try to keep up with today's conversation because we're gonna get into some stuff and we're gonna have some awesome learning, and so I'm pumped.
Yeah, I mean, I want to just start with bioenergetics, right? Because I don't, off the shelf, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So explain. That sounds a little like sci-fi or maybe something that the folks would do in Scientology.
What?
It has all of those connotations and really the charge, we all grew up with Newtonian physics ruling the day, like what we learned in school, grade school on up. And what that means is like from point A to point B, there's time involved in there. Well, there is the new kid on the block, which is not so new, is quantum physics. Now, don't roll your eyes in your head of like, oh, it's going to go woo woo. No, look, we understand these supercomputers in our pockets, right? There is a frequency signal coming in here and it gets interpreted here, right? We all get that now. Like we didn't grow up with these things, but we've got Wi-Fi. Back to the day of radio frequency, you had to get the dial tuned to get the station. Remember that, where it was static and then
yes.
it would come in clear. Well, what?
You're dating us. I
know, but
yes.
We can all relate to that. That is my era. That's when I grew up too. And as Kurt mentioned, don't be deceived. I have been in medicine now 23 plus years, but these receptors that we walk around in are magnificent. They're awe-inspiring. And we have not been taught how truly powerful they are, of what they're fully capable of doing. We get it with the phones, right? We get it with the phones. But this is even 1,000 times greater. So when you talk about a bioenergetic, this is a different control system for the body. So in Newtonian physics, point A to point B time, well, this is standing that up. There's point A to point B, but there is no time involved. So we're looking at the biofrequency or bioresonance around the body, around the organs, around the cell, from inside the cell to outside the cell. There's all frequencies around our bodies that we are now getting to measure and understand better and send information on. And so this, really, I was at a mastermind a few years back of the charge was, how do we make bioenergetics in the general population's consciousness on par with biochemistry, right? So there is this signaling that happens in a frequency matter versus just in a substance or particle. So we can talk about it in a lot of different ways, but looking at it like this is not, yes, it's a large, funny new word, but it is really, this is the true operating system. We can pick up imbalances in the frequencies around your body before you actually get sick. So there are signals. And so now that of the day and age of quantum computing and artificial intelligence, there are patterns that we can see before it manifests as an illness, before a bacteria or virus mounts such an infection in the body that then you get the stuffiness in your nose or you start feeling ill. So we can actually prevent a lot of illness before it becomes an issue in your body with the right information. So it's really, I mean, you can see I'm a little excited to share this.
That's exciting.
But does that make sense? Like, does that help in that understanding?
Yeah, I mean, there's some level of, the first person I've heard talk about this, I've not heard the word bioenergetics before. That's new for me.
Yeah.
But I have heard others talk about it and share about how it's impacted their lives from various practitioners. And you've actually invented your own Eckel protocol.
That's right.
So, when you say Eckel protocol, of course, my imagination is, okay, there's a protocol of vitamins and pills and all this, but it's probably different for you. What is that, and how does that help with brain-related conditions like Parkinson's and brain injuries and the like? Right.
Yeah. So this has been 6 to 7 years in the development. So the genesis, if I start at the beginning, which I won't, I'll just start 6 to 7 years ago. I was a naturopathic Chinese medicine practitioner. And my then wife, Soraya, started to develop some rapidly progressing dementia, cognitive issues. And unknown, a young 40-year-old at that point. And, at that age group for a woman, you think, okay, well, maybe this is early perimenopause. Maybe there's some hormonal changes that are impacting her cognition. Maybe there's a mold issue because we had just moved. We had bought a house together. Maybe the other things that come up on that differential are stress and anxiety, that like pretty ubiquitous big categories of things that can impact someone's cognition or memory, especially at that younger age. Older ages, you start thinking about more dementias, other things. Well, it became quickly evident to me in my, then 17 years of clinical practice. I'd never seen anything like this before. We kind of blew through all of the items that I thought it was and soon had to get out of our clinic. In the cutting moment was one day, my office manager, Chelsea, came up to me and said, "Hey, Doc, Sarah just left the building." I said, "What are you talking about?" This is the middle of the day, white lab jacket, stethoscope, said goodbye to her patients and walked out the front door. And at that moment, I knew, man, we've got to do something. We had to close the practice. I pushed the patients out about 2 to 3 months, and we went looking for solutions and interfacing with the medical system, even as a medical provider with 17 years of experience, was super difficult, especially as Soraya's condition progressed. Within 2 months, she lost the ability to speak or feed herself. I had hospice care on board. We had a full laboratory at home with hyperbarics and IV therapy and all of these therapeutics. And the differential, I always knew Soraya was 1 in a million. Unfortunately, the medical community agreed with me, and the differential diagnosis became very ominous. It was Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is CJD. It's a like mad cow syndrome, and people, very rare, 300 people a year in North America get this. Autoimmune encephalitis, again, no known cure as of yet. So I found myself very well positioned with my back against the wall. We need to figure this out. Like, I can't have her pass like this. Now, unfortunately, what I found did not help her one iota. It was a rocket ride of grief and tragedy of 18 months from her first symptom to when she passed. And as you can imagine, with that type of loss, it could have gone any way. I mean, I could have just put my head in the sand and numbed out. I chose, I navigated the grief, the loss. I came out with a whole heart, and completely whole, and with a massive mission. I knew, number one, I did not want my suffering to be for naught. Number two, I didn't want anyone else to have to navigate the broken medical system without a roadmap. Again, as a provider, with my life on the line, it's tragic. And I knew the system was broke, but to then go through it with that velocity, it is heartbreaking. And it hasn't improved in the last 7 years. It's gotten actually much worse. And, so I knew, like, okay, we need to do something here. And it has, again, a lot of people do not have CJD, but in the textbook of prionic diseases, which Creutzfeldt-Jakob is, which is a misfolded protein, this is the genesis of the Eckel protocol for brain regeneration. So I am getting there. That, we have a roadmap for folks, and we have 3 phases of care that I find most people never get the detect phase, which is understanding what leads into neurodegeneration. So I picked on Parkinson's disease because it's got alpha-synuclein, which is a misfolded protein. Lewy body dementia is in that category. Dementia, Alzheimer's with beta amyloid plaques are misfolded proteins. Progressive supranuclear palsy is a misfolded protein. Multiple systems atrophy is a misfolded protein. Well, fast forward 7 years, we've treated 550 people with Parkinson's diagnosis. Specifically, now we've treated thousands of patients over the last 7 years. We have 1,000 people in our coaching community. And I picked on neurodegeneration. It was my loss, my mission, honoring Soraya and her path and what it did for this guy and Dr. Greg and the Energy for Life Center's team. We're on a massive mission to get this word out that there's actually a lot you can do to regenerate your brain. So much so that we codified it in a protocol, and it doesn't just work for pathology. So I've put it in for my own healthcare in a thrive mode. So we have detect, correct, and thrive, a pyramid, to help people understand with a roadmap, with clarity. What is missing most in our system of medicine right now is clarity. And there's a lot of guessing. There's a lot of just throwing in the towel when you get these diagnoses you get online. It's bleak. There's no hope. It's almost as if a spell is being cast on people. This is what's going to happen to you with this diagnosis. So we are taking a stand here out of Park City, Utah. I mean, I even have a red pom-pom on my desk to cheer for people, because it's not easy making different choices to get different results. So the protocol, the Eckel protocol for brain regeneration, is really, that's the genesis of where it came out of, was my hero's journey of this loss, tremendous loss, and, reinstating my faith in such a beautiful way out of that, in providing such a massive mission for us to help as many people as we can with this.
If you're listening to this show, it's probably because you understand something most people don't. Marketing to Liberty Spenders isn't just about ads or tactics, it's about trust. And in the real world, trust moves through relationships. And that's why private introductions and deal flow are such a core part of what we do.
So FastPass is a private introduction and deal flow network for Christian and conservative leaders who already have influence and want to scale fast. It's not open networking, it's intentional introductions between people who already share alignment. We've seen one client land a $25,000 opportunity from a single introduction. Another told us that FastPass has become his largest source of referrals, not because of volume, but because of fit. And yet another closed her equity round at a key moment just due to the right introduction.
When you book a one-to-one consult with us, we're not handing you a list or making big promises. Instead, we're having a real conversation about what you're building, who you want to meet, and whether FastPass makes sense for this season for you. So no pressure, no hustle, and no awkward pitch from us.
Yeah. If you're ready to grow through relationships instead of forcing everything on your own, head to libertyspenders.com/FastPass and book a one-to-one consult with us.
In worst case, you leave with clarity. Best case, the right introductions change the trajectory of what you're building.
Okay, back to the episode. Yeah, there's so much to unpack with that. I mean, I knew a little bit about the story, but I just obviously I'm very sorry for your loss. And I can't imagine what that 18 months would have been like going through that, especially with your medical understanding, because whenever I speak to anybody who has that sort of experience and when they have the education and background, I find that it's often harder for those individuals because maybe they understand it more. And so then they feel like they should have been able to do more, right? Or they feel like they understood more. So, what a beautiful tribute and honor to her to pursue this. So I don't want to keep you from asking something, but I'm dying to ask a question, which is, what do you think, what would you identify as maybe a standout part of this protocol? Is there something that would be understandable to the audience that you could identify? Here's one thing that's driving results.
Much. So, and thank you, Kristen, for that acknowledgement. And it was so humbling as a medical provider. It's like, I can't even save my wife's life. Like the growth in that process. It's just humbling, and it's an honor to be serving people at a high level. So yes, this component, especially with neurodegeneration, when you look at rates of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and I don't know if any of your listeners or viewers, or if you all have watched your parents or grandparents go through Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, it can be very scary. And you think, I don't want to go through that. What can I do to prevent it? And there is so much. We are moving this discussion in a functional or integrative measure. Again, I go back to what I kind of opened up in a discussion of bioenergetics and frequency is we are magnificent, powerful beings, and we have not been taught how truly powerful we are. So by saying that, what does that mean? It means your mind, spirit, soul is much more potent than you realize. And what you think matters. All of your cells are listening. So if you are worried about something that isn't currently happening, like perhaps these things developing in the future, there's this old adage in Chinese medicine that energy flows where your attention goes. And we are programmed for the worst case scenario of, it does keep us alive, right, with our nervous systems. But there is a retraining and a reprogramming and a relearning that we all need to do because we're all carrying around unconscious, subconscious programs that are actually running the ship. So we think our conscious mind has it all. Have you ever considered why you do certain things or have preferences for certain things? And there is a subconscious, unconscious program running the show. 85% of our beingness is coming from that. So if you're not doing anything to address or look at that, that's a massive thing. Now, we don't start there, right? I'm going to start on this podcast talking about that because your thoughts matter, of like even the thoughts that you're not saying out loud. So if you're worried, like I'm talking to people every day with Parkinson's diagnosis, they're worried about, is this going to progress? When is it going to progress? Because that's the agreed upon collective, like there's no known cure for Parkinson's. You're going to get worse. It's either going to be fast or slow, but you're going to get worse. That's the experts, quote unquote experts. Now, I will say that is misinformation at this point because we've published on Parkinson's reversal, small case series of 2 people, but we have imaging showing the brain has healed itself, no longer looks like a person with Parkinson's. Better yet, those patients are off all of their drugs and have no symptoms of the disease. So we start, though, the starting part is detect. So we look functionally, what are going on with your hormones? What's happening with your gut, the microbiome? We do stool analysis, which is a functional medicine test because we got to get out of the brain. That's the end stage of a disease process. So we move upstream. We look at environmental toxicity. This is a massive one. We look at trauma and we look at molds and viruses. Those 3 buckets need to be addressed for everyone with any neurodegeneration or concern for their mentition, their cognition, and their well-being as we age. And the stats are staggering. It's like over 50% of adults by the year 2030 are going to show cognitive decline, over 50 years old. So over half of adults by 2030 are going to show some cognitive decline. That's a staggering number. What is going on with that? So we've got environmental toxicity. You've got to address that. We look at the microbiome. Of course, we look at blood work, but we're looking more at optimum levels. What people don't understand about their lab work is it's 2 standard deviations around an average. Well, I do not want to compare you to the general population in the United States because they are diseased and sick and drugged, right? I mean, it is when you look at the pharmaceutical industry and what it has done to our population. We have a very sick population. It's on multiple levels. It's alarming. And so we do not, it's, you get into these discussions and, people are like arguing for status quo. And it's like, these institutions have not protected us. Like we are sicker now than we have ever been. We spend more on health than any other nation. And we don't have the number 1 longevity factor. We're really sick in the United States. So 2 standard deviations around an average on the blood work. We also look at your stress hormones with a urine metabolite. You have a cortisol. You have a diurnal variation, means it goes up in the morning to give you energy throughout the day. Then it decreases to allow you to go to sleep at night. That's your adrenal gland. Then there's the sex hormones, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, and thyroid, and endocrine triangle that they all need to get looked at. But we look at that in urine. So we're using functional medicine testing to get out of a pathology discussion. Like the way the system is set up right now is, let's wait until you get sick because we know you're going to get sick, and then we'll manage it with heroics at that point. And by that point, it's oftentimes too late. So it is that component of what you don't know may be killing you today. And where we're at right now, we are living at a marvelous time in that we're able to move upstream in a functional medicine assessment and bioenergetic look and really head things off before they ever develop for you. Now, can I say that 100% across the board? No. There will still be pathology and illness and disease, but chronic illness can be prevented if we were just looking at it earlier. So the take home hopefully is hopeful for you.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I think you're right. And you're definitely preaching to the choir. I mean, the amount of learnings that I think just general Americans have done over the last several years, and the resurgence, not resurgence, but the explosion, I would say, of people doing more holistic medicine, people understanding the microbiome, understanding our hormones. I know we've done a lot of work on that. And, the amount of supplements and peptides and all other kinds of things that we're doing now that we wouldn't have done years ago is a testament to that. But so I wanted to ask this, and I hope I'm not going to veer way off course because I don't know what you'll say or what your opinion of this might be. So I'm taking maybe a bit of a risk, but obviously you're focused on the brain. And there's, I've been following, I can't remember his name now, so that's escaping me, but there's another specialist who does a lot of podcast interviews that I've been following, who's a specialist on the brain. And I find it fascinating. But when it comes to some of these issues of, degeneration or Alzheimer's or dementia, what I have come to appreciate is just how much our diet, I think, impacts a lot of that. And so you're talking about Americans being sick and you're noticing all these things, but how much would you attribute to that and the processed food and sugars? Because my understanding is we're looking at Alzheimer's and some of this stuff as another form of diabetes, issues with insulin resistance. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's so true. You could call it neurocognitive decline in Alzheimer's, dementia, mild cognitive impairment, diabesity of the brain. And so there is, it's moving the discussion out of the end stage and moving upstream. Well, yeah, I actually have two books coming out next year. One really niched on defying Parkinson's, where we've got the 5 types of Parkinson's. And then I have been asked by our patients to tell them what to eat. So we created a little reluctantly the Eckel diet, but it is actually based on research and on sugar metabolism. I think one of the things that I've put in for my own longevity is wearing a continuous glucose monitor for 1 to 2 months a year to see what are my food choices doing to my sugars. Because when you have unopposed glucose, insulin follows. Insulin is the kind of the neuroendocrine transmitter that will get glucose into your cell to give you energy. But if that's uncontrolled, those two spikes, inflammation follows that. And when you get into an inflammatory state, that's where all chronic illness comes from. And then if we look at just this component of the brain, so that's my route in talking about health. But looking at it, yes, of course, you are what you eat. We dig our graves with our forks. This aspect of the ultra processed food of, how do we have food substances in the United States diet that are banned in other countries? Like, can we just get that? It's now the veil is being lifted. There's more and more discussion about this, but we need, a whole food diet, like staying out of the center of the shopping grocery store, stay out on the outside periphery. You've got your vegetables and your meats and your eggs and butter. You have the whole. I think
the stat I heard was it was 73% of what's in your local grocery store is like ultra processed, like food product. What you.
It's not even food. Like, right. It cracks me up. You go into some of these, and there's like the natural foods section, and there's 2 lanes in there that you have natural foods. So what does that make the rest of the grocery store? Right now, I think they've started to disperse that because of this commentary of like, well, what's the rest of the food in here? If that's natural food, what's the rest of it? There are food deserts. And so, people don't understand that. There's this myth as well that I think eating organically or a whole foods diet is expensive. And the way that I would turn that around is actually, there's the old adage is when you have your health, you have 1,000 wishes. But when you do not have your health, you have only but one. And being ill in dis-ease is very expensive. And so I think we're looking at the equation wrong, of like, well, I'm going to do fast food or this food's cheap. It's like, well, you're feeding your vessel garbage. And so like the temple, I used to get upset when people say, your body is a temple. And it's like, actually, as I get into mid-age, I'm 55. Yeah. And I said that's mid-age, but my kids call me old, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't feel old. This is not old, when we say,
the age of longevity, right? It could be mid-age for you, right? As lifespans get longer and longer. And the key is not to live, right? It's not to live. We don't want to just live longer. We want to have energy and be able to be vibrant and, right? Not just kind of strung along.
Yeah, that's, it's an interesting component of like when I say, oh yeah, I'm going to live to be 153 years old. And people look at you like, have you seen them out there, Doc? I don't want to live that long. I'm like, well, that's not healthy aging. We have a diseased society. It's actually, with vibrancy, with my strength, with my brawn, with my brain, with community. Like, imagine the wisdom that could be shared with that length of a lifespan. And we're right at that inflection point.
Yeah, I do think that's really powerful. And, my own personal experience with this, in my beginning, I had two experiences in life that made me start to question what the normal healthcare system advises. The first one was when my dad passed away. He had pulmonary fibrosis. And, so they have him on oxygen and all this stuff. And as it progressed, they start intervening, right? Let's give him some steroids. Mm-hmm. Let's give him this. And at first, and they talk about it with such confidence. We're going to do this and this is going to happen. And I realized they have no idea. They don't know the giant ball of drugs he's taking. What's going to happen?
Well, then there are indications, right? Reactions.
So exactly what Kristen was saying happens is, he's no longer fighting pulmonary fibrosis. He's fighting whatever the doctors cause with the giant steroid thing they're giving him.
Right.
And I started to question the confidence, like they're really kind of making it up, right? And ultimately in the end, probably, he was coming towards the end anyway, but ultimately in the end probably pushed him over the cliff through interventions. And then also I thought it was funny when we were pregnant, our second time actually with Ellie. She was kind of a small baby. So they're always worried something's wrong with her. And one day, one of the specialists just said, you know what, I think I'm going to just change your due date by about 5 days and everything lines up. And I thought, how much money have we spent? Because the doctors all say she's behind, there's some problem here. And then one doctor said, change the due date and magic.
And it's like, wait, what?
And I thought, wait, this is just not as much, clear as they say it is. Right. And it made me start to think, not that these folks were bad intentioned or weren't trying their best, but maybe we've treated doctors like they're godlike in their medical knowledge, and there's a lot more that people can know than they're taught in school.
Well, I would probably be a little more charitable. I mean, yes, there's some of that, but there's a lot to know, and we're learning things all the time. And that's why there's specialists. That's why there's, all kinds of areas that people can study. And, one thing that's been interesting is just how much or how little in a standard, historically in a standard education that a doctor might go through is the impact of nutrition. And like you said, that's been a new thing because we're just eating trash. And I say that as someone who still eats a lot of trash. So I am being fully transparent, right? But I'm appreciating this more and more, as someone who's traveled a lot and that was definitely a norm for me, was eating something out of a box or, so anyway, so I try to be more charitable because people don't go into medicine without the hope of being helpful.
No, and to that point, we know a lot of how the body works, and we're still discovering things. So for instance, two systems come to mind that I did not learn in medical school. One being very small embryonic-like stem cells. So we do a laser-activated and guided stem cell procedure here. In Utah, we're in a right-to-try state. So for conditions that there is not any known cause, you have the right to try. And the first tenet of medicine is don't do no harm. So we've got them. They're very safe. They've been checked out. They've been utilized many times clinically. These were discovered in 2005 by Dr. Radachak at the University of Kentucky. I graduated medical school in 2001. So, it was 4 years after I graduated that we discovered those. There's a whole system in the body called the endocannabinoid system. It underlies all of our neurotransmitters. In fact, there's more receptors for cannabidiols in the body than all of the other neurotransmitters in the body. Professor Machulam out of Israel discovered these, I think in 2015. Not like we're still discovering things in our bodies that are massively influential in our health. And so there has to be more humility and a curiosity in a pure scientific. Like, I never want to hear the science is settled. That's such the unscientific statement. When we get into, and I know, there is politics involved in all of our lives, but when politics gets into medicine, we're really in trouble. And it's there, right? There are certain things that you're not allowed to discuss. Now, thankfully, it's coming out. I mean, there's massive, report from the Hill on vaccinated versus unvaccinated kids. It was squelched study that is now part of congressional record, finally. And we're actually able to have a conversation. It's like, the patriarch is thinking we're all stupid or something. Like, we can't have an educated discussion around, the reality of things. And that, I think what I found, the root word of doctor is docere, or teacher. If we are not able to educate people to make an informed consent on what they do with their sacred vessel, their body, I mean, we're lost. That is the tenets of medicine. And we need to be able to freely discuss and debate respectfully. But when you throw censorship on of like, oh, well, there'll be, vaccine hesitancy on that case in point, there should be, because we don't have complete information. Can we just have the real science to do this rather than treating people as products and profit centers? Like, that was one of the things I came to in the process that I went through with Soraya. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And there's a place there. It's coal and steel country. It's, near the border of West Virginia, Maryland, and near Pittsburgh.
The flood.
Yeah.
The flood happened there, yes.
That's right. The Johnstown floods. You're right. Our claim to fame.
I was going to say, why did you?
Well, I've been there. They're very famous. I've been there.
Yeah.
And so we were sitting at Eaton Park, Eaton Park, where I ate as a kid growing up. They had the all-you-can-eat buffet. And I'm just sitting there with my kids and my Aunt Joan and looking around. I'm like, wow, my people are being treated like products. It's like, how much food can we shove in their gullets to give them drugs to keep them alive, just to profit on every step of the way? And I'm like, this could be so different in an abundant mindset of like treating people as sacred beings and really as one, as like, these are all our family on the planet. Can we treat them with love and respect and actually feed them food that's good for them, and water that's clean to drink, and air that is clean to breathe? Like, those are the rights that I would like to see all of us get reestablished for ourselves rather than what is happening now. And so, looking at it of like, we all have the capabilities to be the CEO of our health.
Yes.
And having that information given to us. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's an important decision to make, and can sometimes be hard. But I am learning to cook more meat right now.
Awesome, Kurt.
More protein.
I'm having to ask around to my friends, how do I cook this giant pork butt?
Yes.
That's our family topic right now. That the kids love calling it pork butt.
We have a 3 and a 5-year-old for context, Dr. Greg. So.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I'm teaching them all to have really boring sense of humor and laughing about stuff like that.
Yes.
But we're enjoying it. And this has been, I could go on about this stuff for a couple more hours, but I wanted to kind of transition and do our lightning round questions. Dr. Greg, as hopefully when you're age 153 and you're looking back on your life and you're judging, was my life a success or not? How will you know that you had a life well lived?
I love this question, especially as it comes to a longevity discussion. I ask myself that often of how do you know you're living a life well lived? And I think, I really got into medicine to be in service to people. It is so rewarding to hear the impact that our center has, our coaching has on people. My goal is to create a thriving, heart-centered being that is able to create from that space without limitations. And so I've had authors who could not write anymore after coming through our program are able to write 2 or 3 more books. And to know that we've touched so many lives. So it's that piece of seeing, and I might not even see the outcome, but knowing, as my mother taught me, just do your best, Greg, that I am showing up in that fashion for myself, for my family, for my employees, for the community, for the patients, for their families, for their communities, and having that change ripple out from there. That's the game I'm playing, Kurt. And knowing, as I have, I had fourth generation rancher from Texas, look me in the eyes and shake my hand and said, "Thank you, Dr. Greg, for taking a stand for us. It is really making a difference." I already know the legacy impact, but to envision that much larger on a grander scale, looking back at that of like, wow, we served at a massive, massive level.
Yeah.
I don't doubt you're going to feel that way. Just hearing you and seeing your passion, I have no doubts.
Yeah. Well, now for something completely different. We'd like to ask you to dive into something that's taking you down the rabbit hole lately. Maybe it's a hobby, something you're interested in, but it's not related to the clinic and some of the topics. What's something that's got you fascinated right now?
I love music. And I have been non-professionally playing a guitar since I was in middle school. And I still don't know the instrument. So I've been diving in on different courses of learning the notes and music theory, songwriting and creation. I'm just fascinated, like, where do songs come from? And so I've written some songs and I'm looking to hone my songwriting craft and make them better and really, study amazing songwriters and really get into their music and in that aspect. So I don't allot enough time to that, but it is one of those rabbit holes of I've got, different books and different programs and the guitars are out in the living room.
Right.
And, yeah.
That's fascinating. I think that's interesting. I wish I had learned an instrument and stuck with it, but I remind myself that it's never too late to start. So that's inspiring right there. I think that's very cool.
Awesome.
It is. And we like to give everybody a chance to do 90 seconds of really quality self-promotion. So we want you to imagine somebody listened and they fast forwarded only to this section so they can only listen to 90 seconds. Who should be looking for and finding you? And how do they do that? How do you help them?
Well, so Dr. Greg Eckel of Energy for Life Centers, I want you to thank Dr. Greg and Brain Regeneration. We are living at an amazing time. We have a Thrive program for entrepreneurs of looking at that question of how good can it get? What do you want? How good can life get? It's a really awesome question. And by having your health, you can really expand your awareness around that. So, number one, any entrepreneur or anyone looking to get into Thrive mode, especially through the lens of their brain health and optimization. We work with a lot of athletes here in Park City, Utah, some Olympians to be. And then we also, on the flip side of that, my specialty and what I've written books on is Parkinson's. So people with Parkinson's disease. We are having some tremendous success, a 95% success rate of improving quality of life, meaning 95% of the folks that come through our program are reporting improvement of their quality of life, which is unheard of in the Western medical approach. So we take a full person healthcare assessment, treat you as a heart-centered dynamic being moving through time and space, and help motivate you to make those changes. So we do a lot with brain regeneration and longevity.
That's awesome. It's been good to have you here. I'm fascinated by this whole thing.
I know. I want you to come back.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot that people can learn beyond what we covered today. So anyone who wants to learn more or wants to get a hold of Dr. Eckel, you can hit him up at www.energy4lifecenters.com. Is there any other place they can go to find more info?
That's a great one. BrainRegen.com is another one, specifically around the neuroregeneration work that we're doing here.
Yes, check out the podcast.
Yeah, and the Brain Regen podcast.
Yes.
Right.
So please, anyone who's wants to learn more, check him out there.
Yep. And we'll put information about the books in the show notes too. So for other people who want to deep dive, we'll make sure you get access to that. Thank you so much, Dr. Greg. This has been fascinating. I have all kinds of, like you said, we could have gone on and on and on. This is fascinating what you're doing. And I want to thank you for just giving of yourself in this way and just moving the ball forward. It really is inspiring when we start to meet so many people who are like you, literally creating and changing the future for so many people's lives. It's exciting. So thank you for what you're doing. And for those of you tuning in, thank you. We appreciate your time. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything in the future. Until next time.